What's going on, YouTube? It's the best bounty hunter on the West Coast. So, coming to you today with the video about the things that you will need in California to become a bounty hunter, aka fugitive recovery agent, officer of the court. Um, these things are what California requires by law, and also I'm going to give you a couple things that I personally feel that someone should have different training and whatnot before they become a bounty hunter, or before they start going out and affecting arrests. So, starting off with the California mandated PC 832 course. So this is a basic law enforcement course. All law enforcement in the state of California have to have this certification. They have to go through this class. They go through it during the academy. You can get it as someone who's not sworn. So back in 2013, when I got this class, it was pretty hard to get into a class. I was living in San Diego. I had to travel up to Shafter, California to get my class because everything was just packed book with academies and whatnot. So I couldn't get a class down in Southern California. So I had to drive up a little bit to get it. So the class, like I said, consists of arrest techniques, firearm training, cuffing, law, things like that. Basic law enforcement law and techniques and training. That course is, I think it was 2 or 3 days long, and I can't remember the price. It wasn't too expensive, but it did cost a good chunk of change. But just think of it as an investment. If you're just getting into it, it'll pay its dividends well over time. So the other thing that you're going to need is a 20-hour bail course. So this course will show you pretty much the major in and outs of the bail industry. So you'll understand the process of bail, the main laws surrounding bail. This will give you an idea what to tell your defendant after you've made an arrest. You can advise them, hey, XYZ is going to happen. It'll give you pretty much everything you need to know when it comes to bail for a recovery agent. Bail agents who actually write the bail, they have to take this course as well. So more than likely you'll be in a class with bail agents and recovery agents. So that's something that you will have to have. Those two things are what California mandates for all fugitive recovery agents, bounty hunters, and whatnot to have in the state of California. Things that I personally feel that someone should have is, number one, a basic grappling technique. When you're out here and you're dealing with people, it will get physical depending on how you operate. Some people operate on a more Rambo kicking the door type style, and you're going to be in a lot more fights. I personally operate in a patient sort of operation where I'll sit back, and instead of letting somebody come out the front door, going in someone's front door at their house where they're comfortable and they may have things around them that they can use and that they're familiar with against you. Like, I'm sitting right here at this McDonald's. I know this defendant comes to McDonald's every morning, wait at the McDonald's, and possibly do the arrest here. It'll save me a lot of grief, a lot of anger, and a lot of stress when the person's in a non-familiar place, as far as maybe objects or people around them. They're a lot less likely to act in a violent manner. So you want to have some sort of grappling techniques. You want to be able to restrain somebody and subdue somebody, and if need be, correctly incapacitate somebody if it comes to that point. Obviously, you don't want to get into a situation where you violate someone's constitutional rights and subject them to cruel and unusual punishment, and that leads into being versed in constitutional law. You cannot subject the defendant to any cruel and unusual punishment. So say you know how to grapple, and you hit somebody with a rear naked choke. You're fighting, maybe you can't restrain them, and you put in a rear naked choke. That is considered cruel and unusual punishment by law. So if a person would like to sue you civilly, they would probably win if they had any decent lawyer, and you're going to be out of a lot of money trying to fight it with your attorneys, and if they win, you'll be out of a lot of money with that as well. So no constitutional law, know that, okay, maybe that won't work doing a rear naked choke, but maybe a vascular choke, a side choke. I'm not sure the like the MMA terminology for it, but using a vascular choke is something that you can do. That's not considered cruel and unusual punishment. Something that simple will put you in the realm of liability, non-liability. So understand what you can and can't do. That'll help in this whole field, throughout your whole career as a recovery agent. Some other things that I think you should be trained in is the use of crowd control, OC spray. That is something that I personally haven't had to deploy myself, but you want to have that as a tool in your toolbox so that if the situation arises where you may need to use that, you're able to deploy it, know exactly what you're doing, and also fight through it. Because the first time you're going to get that blowback from it, depending on how things happen, your first couple of breaths or gulps of that can incapacitate you if you're not ready. So you want to have that training before you go into the situation. And if it takes your friend popping that pin and spraying you across the face, there's a reason I've done it in my time in law enforcement, and law enforcement does that is because you want to be able to stay in the fight. If you spray somebody and say it gets them, but you also get a pretty big blowback, you want to be able to know exactly what's coming, know how it feels, and know how to work through it. Like I said, if it takes your friend spraying you in the face and you guys going through some handcuffing, and maybe you give some loud verbal commands, they get down, you cuff them, or however you want to do it. Look at different law enforcement trainings. When I did it myself, it was the lieutenant sprays you across the face. You have to take your cuffs from your duty belt and then cuff the individual, and from there you have to go and fight the big red man and then move on from there. So you want to maybe simulate that in real life in a civilian capacity so that you can understand what you're doing and have training in it. Things like batons I really wouldn't recommend, just because you can break bones with those, and you don't want to again have that liability when it comes to your fugitive recovery. And again, you also want to know things like that can be, I guess, turned against you when it comes to that liability aspect. A person can say, hey, he hit me X amount of times, he didn't need to, XYZ. Just don't open yourself up to it. Don't give it the chance to roll and spin into that. Thing that I do want to put in when it comes to training is handcuffing and holstering and weapon proficiency. You want to make sure that when it comes to your weapon, you are very proficient in its handling and its usage. You want to make sure that if you are in a situation where you have someone at gunpoint, you can immediately holster your weapon once that defendant starts to comply with your orders and you're ready to handcuff. If you try to holster your weapon, but maybe you hit the side of your holster because you don't have that muscle memory to reholster, those 2, 3, 4 times that you miss, give that defendant 2 to 4 seconds to think, fight, flight, stay, go. It can make a complete difference in the arrest of the defendant. So you want to be able to have that muscle memory to immediately slam that weapon back in that holster, and should the situation call for it, reach back in there, grab that holster, and bring it to low ready or whatever you need to do. Trust me, those 2 to 4 seconds of you not being trained in holstering or not having the experience and muscle memory in holstering can make a situation go completely sideways and make the whole difference in an arrest. Secondly, when it comes to weapons, you want to be able to make sure that if you do get into a situation where your life is threatened, you're trained enough to not only shoot your weapon, but to hit your target. I can't express how important this is. Indiscriminate firing of your weapon will be the end of you financially, number one, and could cause you some criminal liability as well. So if your defendant pulls a gun, you want to be able to protect yourself and protect others by making sure that you're proficient in your shooting. And this can come down to, again, I always talk about liability. If you're someone who goes to the range regularly and you shoot regularly and you're proficient, you can show that to the court when, if it comes down to a point where you may face liability. You can show the court, look, I take my weapon proficiency seriously. I've gone to the range XYZ. I've logged how many rounds I've shot. I've logged, I've taken, you take pictures of your target, the distance your target was. Things like that will help to limit liability. And then again, back down to handcuffs. If it takes you, bringing in your friends and maybe you closing your eyes and running through a situation, and then running that situation with your friend where you have to handcuff them, unholstering your handcuffs, having them in the correct position, having them loaded so that first time you hit that wrist, bang, that cuff spins around, locks in, and then you can focus on the other cuff and then tighten them up. You want to make sure that your handcuff technique and your weapon proficiency is above par in grade A, so that again you can limit liability and you can have a great future when it comes to recovery. Because when it comes down to it, you're in this for money and this is your job, this is your business. You don't want to go out and work for money to have to pay it out to an attorney. So those things are crucial in your training and in your process of being a recovery agent. And it's not something that you just want to do one time. You want to make sure that you do these things as often as you can. I'm not even gonna say quarterly or yearly, as often as you can. The better you get, the more muscle memory you get, the longer fruitful career you're gonna have, and the safer you're gonna be. So those are a couple things that you're gonna want to make sure that you are highly trained in. Some other things that I think you should be trained in is the operations of the jail. So when you get into recovery, the first time you go and arrest somebody, okay, cool, you got them. Do you know what to do with them? Do you know how to fill out the paperwork when you get to the jail? Do you know where the jail is? Do you know if they will let you drive through the Sally Port, or if you have to park in a parking structure and pay for parking and transport your defendant on foot to the jail? You want to be familiar with those kind of things. You want to be trained up if it calls for you going out with other recovery agents and just standing by, and just maybe you can do their video for the day and videotape their interactions and their arrest, and get the sort of rundown and the know-how of what it takes to not only arrest somebody, but to actually go through the process and book them, because you don't get paid until that person is booked and you have that slip, that proof of them being booked. So you want to be well versed and understand not only what it takes to arrest somebody, but also to book them, because it doesn't stop once you put the cuffs on. Those are some things that I feel that recovery agents need to make sure they have their mind wrapped around. And there's different things that you can learn online. Take advantage of YouTube. One bounty hunter that I personally like particularly is named Bounty Tank. He operates out of Akron, Ohio, and his channel has a good representation of what it is to become a fugitive recovery agent. You want to be professional. You want to treat the defendants like they're humans. You'll see a lot of people who are very, derogatory, very hyper aggressive. that will do nothing for you, except when someone videotapes you doing an arrest and this person says, you know, you treated them XYZ. When you go to court and they play that video, do you want to look like the crazy, you know, wannabe super cop, or do you want to look like the professional that handled the situation, de-escalated immediately once there was no more need? Look at people like Bounty Tank. Don't look at the guys who are super tacked up and doing all this extra stuff. And you know, it's not necessary when it comes to recovery. The best thing to do is to have patience, learn patience, because you can always go kick someone's door in, you can always do all that, but if you can't learn patience, you're not going to be successful in this field. And like me, I'm sitting here waiting for this person. I can go and kick in their door, but like I said, it doesn't do me any good. It creates a more dangerous situation, and it also creates more liability. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions in the comment box. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to get back to you guys soon with another video. Let me know what any other topics you guys want me to cover, and I'll talk to you guys soon.